Hello, love. It's Nina with Passion Squared. Welcome back to the podcast and Happy New Year. Wow, it's been a minute since I have recorded a new episode of our podcast. And I know I've shared before, I'm not a big podcast fan. I don't listen to podcasts. And, we tend to focus on what we see value in. And I love sharing this podcast with you. I just sometimes struggle with creating the actual episodes. And so one of my intentions for 2024 is to get back to it. I've heard from many of you that say you enjoy this. And if you enjoy it, I am going to commit to doing my best to get back to it and even bring some guests back as we are celebrating our 13th birthday this year, Passion Squared, and A School this month is celebrating its 10th birthday. And so I do want to bring some guests back and just share their stories and provide so much inspiration and context and all that kind of stuff. So thank you. Thank you for your patience. As always, I hope that you are easing in to this new year with hope. Hope is a word that I've been holding on to a lot the last few years. And so let's get started. I used to do a year-end podcast where I do kind of like a year in review. And while I did that for our A School members last month, I did not do it for the podcast. And so I decided instead that I was going to do more of the year of perspective and really focus on 2024 and how we collectively as an industry can regain some perspective that is so easily lost when we are online 24/7, when the algorithms are designed to enrage us so we more deeply engage. You've heard me say engagement before. It's so easy to lose perspective, all of us. And perspective, of course, I had to look up the actual definition. Perspective is defined in the context of what I'm sharing, what I want to talk about with you today. The capacity to view things in their true relations or relative importance. So a year ago, actually in January 2023, every year I do a workshop for our A School members. And it's a trends and outlooks workshop. And what that means is I am looking at global trends. I am looking at local trends. I am looking at trends in consumer behavior, trends in marketing, trends in beauty, and how that could possibly impact salons and our clients in particular, and or create opportunities. And so the kind of theme that I shared with our A School members a year ago this week was that care, trust, and value were going to be really important in 2023. And what I meant by that is that with economic insecurities and being unsure, folks were going to seek more value in their salon experiences, and they were going to seek more attention in the people they do business with, and trust was going to be a big part of that. And that's what happens when we are dealing with either economic insecurity or feeling unsure. We're seeking consistency and comfort when we are feeling, unsure. And going into 2024, I feel the exact same way. Now, you've probably listen to many different pieces of content, whether it's on TikTok or whatever. However, I study the larger voices, the economic experts, the people that, set interest rates and measure inflation and, do all of that. That's what I've always done. That was my job as a marketer. And I have retained that, researching, reading many different points of view, many different thoughts from thought leaders in the space. And what is happening is as we enter 2024, there is still a little feeling of nervousness, of insecurity about what's going on with the economy. However, most indicators are pointing in the right direction, meaning inflation continues to decline, and the Feds in the U.S. have slowed the interest rate increases and could possibly begin to lower them. But that's going to be happening throughout the year. That's what the experts say. So we still, I feel, are in a year of uncertainty. And when we're in that uncertainty, we want to make sure that we are focusing on the fundamentals. This is about perspective. So again, I don't listen to podcasts. My focus is always on our clients and what's happening in the greater business and world space. However, I do get clients and community members sending me TikToks and reels and certain statements and pieces of content and ask my view on it, ask my advice, ask about my perspective. And these are just some of the things that I have been hearing over the last, I would say, 3 months. And I'm going to use these as an example of loss of perspective and how we can regain our perspective. So a few of the things that I've heard is this was the slowest holiday season ever for everyone. Everybody hates hairdressers. Nobody thinks we are worth what we charge. Suites are price gouging. Salon profitability is the lowest it's ever been. Inflation and costs keep going up. Everybody is doing XYZ. The industry is all moving towards XYZ. So I'm gonna go through these one by one with the idea that, and a reminder that without context, we absolutely are losing perspective and we are believing things that a single person says or a viral TikTok says or a few comments on a post. And our brains are saying that must mean everybody. We have to remember the algorithm loves this shit. It loves when people get enraged. It loves when people fight in the comments. It thrives on that. And we're all on a different algorithm, right? So if all we're seeing is everybody hates hairdressers, then we start to believe that everybody hates hairdressers. Everybody does not hate hairdressers. The majority of the world loves their hairdresser. Loves, can't live without. I mean, remember the pandemic, right? Remember how much people missed you? How much we just sat home feeling not as cute as we wanted to be? You are so loved and you are so valued as a business and also as an individual human being. And we have to be careful not to look at a few comments on a post and decide that that's the world and that's what the world thinks. That is not true. That's not true. Let's go back to perspective defined. The capacity to view things in their true relations and or relative importance. We are losing that every single day. And it's fucking awful for your mental health and really harmful for your business. Think about that. I work with all different models of salons, meaning employment-based, lease-based, suite-based. Independents that work in a lease-based salon as independent, quote-unquote, booth renters. Some of our clients had record years. Some of our clients had just a regular year. And the clients and community, the ones that struggled, if at all, had nothing to do with any of these things that I shared. This was the slowest holiday season. Everybody hates hairdressers. Suites are price gouging. Profitability is below 5. None of that had anything to do with that, because there are just years where shit sucks, which could have nothing to do with external factors whatsoever. I have had a really difficult few years personally, and it has had a significant impact on my company. That has nothing to do with external factors. It has everything to do with my limited ability to create content. I mean, and I've shared that on the podcast before. So let's get into it. On the suites are price gouging. People are leaving suites. Let's talk about that. We definitely saw a larger move towards suites in the middle and towards the end of the pandemic. And some people have realized that that's not what they wanted. Some people moved into a suite without understanding the financial impacts, meaning depending on your business, your rent, and if you look at a basic profit and loss statement, your rent in an employment-based salon should be around, and again, benchmarks are simply benchmarks, 10% of monthly sales. So if your lease price at your suite was $2,000 a month and you only generate $6,000 a month in revenue, then that is not a sustainable, that's not a sustainable business. Some people didn't understand that, and that's okay. Some people didn't understand how much effort goes into marketing and operations of having your own business. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. To try something and say, you know what? That didn't work for me. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for everybody, right? It just didn't work for you. Perspective. Somebody sent me something and asked my view on, someone was, I don't know if it was on Instagram or TikTok or where it was, but that suites were were a loss leader, were pricing themselves as a loss leader. That's not what loss leader means. There are definitely suites that had promotional pricing, but promotional pricing is not the same as a loss leader. So if you've ever rented an apartment, it's the same thing, right? So it's like half month free when you move in, or, a $500 gift card when you sign your lease today. It's the same type of thing. It's a promotion. So did some suites do that? Do some suites do that? Of course. Yeah. Promotions are available to everybody. Not everybody runs promotions, but yeah, is it a part of marketing? Yes, it certainly can be. A loss leader is something different. And the best example I can use is Costco rotisserie chicken. That is a loss leader, meaning it's priced at $4.99 and stays at $4.99. It is not a profitable item, but it brings you in the store. It's also placed at the very end of the store, meaning we have to walk all the way through the store to get to the loss leader. That is a not profitable item. That's what a loss leader is. So that, again, perspective. Their loss leader and running a promotion, those are not the same things. Salon profitability is now below 5%. Okay, so I mean, that's a big, bold claim because our industry is very, very light on actual statistics, data. There are different groups that have data sets, but again, something to represent the entire industry, it's just never existed. It's very difficult to get. So in my experience, the last 3.5 decades, 5% profitability, net profitability, meaning what you actually take home profit, right? Gross profit before expenses, net profit after expenses and taxes, net, 5% was always kind of the average. Not a very high profitable business. It never has been. So depending on your expenses and depending on your pricing and depending on your volume, there's so many factors that go into overall profitability. Some salons could be under 5% profitability. There's also salons that are 20% net profit range. So, I mean, that again, there's no context there. But it's basic economics if you look at your profit and loss statement. You've got sales and you've got expenses, right? Revenue, expenses. So depending on your revenue and your expenses, that's going to determine your net profit. So now, of course, there are a lot of differences here when it comes to what type of salon, because there are very high margin services, high profit margin services, and there are lower profit margin services. Services that require a significant amount of labor and a significant amount of product. Without, with a kind of cap on the price, right? But there are other services like some extension services, hair replacement services that are higher margin services that have a huge impact on the bottom line. So we can't compare someone that is a hair replacement specialist salon to someone that is doing, 10 haircuts a day. So different brands, different salons, different product mixes, different service mixes, different price points, different brands. Now, the other thing that has helped salons with profitability over the last 3.5 decades is home care sales. Home care sales, because while service profit margins tend to be lower, product profit margins tend to be higher. And so when we look at the product sales and their contribution to overall profitability, it was significant. And that really started in the late 80s and all through the 90s. And in some cases, it still exists in some salons. There were salons that were doing a significant amount of revenue in product sales and had a significant impact on their net profit. Meaning if service profit was 5 or 10%, the product sales contributed to where that salon was netting 25 and 30% profit. However, perspective. There are so many variables that go into profitability. And every salon brand is different depending on your business model, depending on your brand, which drives your pricing and the services that you offer. Some folks confused healthy boundaries with walls post-pandemic. And what I have seen, and again, that's on a larger scale. This isn't about one TikTok, one comment. This is about looking at the larger market, consumer behaviors and attitudes. Some salons have become difficult to do business with and are finding that not all clients like that. In fact, most clients don't like that. And I see that as a overcorrection, meaning if you had no clear business agreements before the pandemic and or struggled with healthy boundaries, then you decided that you were going to never again, everything's different. I'm setting up super firm, inflexible agreements that are actually more like walls. That's an overcorrection, as opposed to not having clear business agreements and then creating clear business agreements. Clear business agreements that are aligned with your brand. Being difficult to do business with is generally not something I recommend. Having clear business agreements is something I've always recommended. And it's something we've provided a template for our clients for years. Our awesome client agreements template. So I've seen that so much in the last few years. These walls. And that's not what healthy boundaries are. Healthy boundaries are permeable. Because life is not black and white. Clients' behavior is not black and white. Business is not black and white. Clear, yes. Inflexible, no. So the next thing is pricing. And I know that's always a hot topic. However, what I continue to struggle with is the fact that pricing is spoken about completely out of context. Pricing is a function of marketing. Pricing is a function of brand. It's driven by brand, story, and market position and marketing. But it's talked about like it's in its own little silo. That's not how pricing works. Not in service businesses, not in product businesses. And some people increase their prices without repositioning their brand, meaning, let's say that you were a kind of on the price pyramid, which is, think of the top pyramid, that's luxury. That's a low volume, high price, meaning less clients, higher price services. Then the moderate part of the pyramid is moderate, right? Moderate volume, moderate price. And then the bottom of the pyramid is low price, high volume. So that would be like the $10 haircut where you see 15 people a day. The moderate would be like a $60 haircut where you see 6 people a day. And then the top would be a $200 haircut where you see 3 people a day. Whatever. Apply anything to that. It's a marketing fundamental. So if you were a value or moderate brand and you saw a TikTok that said, charge your worth, and you see people on the internet charging $125 for a haircut, and you're like, yeah, I'm worth it. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, where did my clients go? So some of that's been happening. And either the pricing's not aligned with the brand or the increase in pricing is not aligned with the experience or value. It's all connected. It has nothing to do with your worth as a person. Nothing. Zero. Your worth as a person has nothing to do with your business whatsoever. It has everything to do with your brand and what people see value in. And the clientele that you are building relationships with, they value different things at different price points. And so that's why brand fundamental education is so important. So you understand that and you can set your prices accordingly in alignment with that. And if you want to reposition your brand and move from moderate market position to luxury market position, you can do that. It requires work, starting with brand story and then aligning everything with that. It's all connected to brand. And one of the reasons I never shut up about brand, because it's one of the biggest missing pieces in our industry for salons. It always has been. Missing in business education. And it's the foundation, which is why people struggle and kind of go like, oh, someone said to do this. Someone said to do this. I don't know what to do about this. I don't know. It always comes back to brand. That's your compass. It's your GPS. It's your home base. It's your foundation. And without that understanding, we do get drawn into different pieces of advice. And we're like, oh, but someone said do this, but someone said do this. Your brand is your conscience. It's your compass. It's your home base. It drives everything. You know, when I go back to it was a slow holiday, which it wasn't generally, not in the economy. It was a different holiday. People used buy now, pay later more than ever. It was up significantly, which credit debt is at one of its highest it's been. So that's not always good for the economy. However, as the reports come in, it wasn't a slow holiday in the economy. One of the things that I see and have seen and continue to see, especially for those that went from an employment-based model to a lease-based or suite-based model, is not remembering or knowing the fundamentals of client retention. And a great example of that is in the post-experience follow-up if a client has not pre-booked. Meaning there are several clients out there, I'm one of them, that if we don't rebook, we get busy, we forget, and then we get outside of our regular maintenance schedule. And what's awesome for the business is they can reach out to us and say, hey, Nina, it's been a minute. Let's get you back in, get you feeling good. And it's like, oh, thanks. I've been so busy. I keep forgetting to book an appointment. It happens every day, every single day. So something as simple as, and we have clients that do this and capture tens of thousands of dollars in revenue because of it and keep clients happy because of it. It's a fundamental. But we don't see it talked about on TikTok or Reels. I mean, except a few of us, talk about it. But it's those fundamentals. So if we look at, oh, my books were lighter than normal, we always go back to the fundamentals. We always check in with the fundamentals. Asking people to share their experience online, right? Tapping into review platforms. Tapping into, if you have a referral program, tapping into post-experience emails or texts, getting people back into onto their schedule. Those are the fundamentals. The fundamentals, without anything fancy, no dancing, no whatever, just the actual fundamentals. So I think that, I don't think I know. I know some of that had something to do with it. And that includes inviting people to book their holiday experiences. Instead of shaming clients for not getting in for the holidays, that content could instead say, I want to make sure you're looking awesome for the holidays. Click here to book your reservation. It's the same amount of time, very different messaging, very different outcome. So that's just one thing to think about when we are talking about perspective. So the inflation and costs keep going up. No, not in the United States. Actually, that's literally not happening. Inflation has been consistently coming down over the last quarter. We're not there yet, and there's still some categories of things that are really ridiculously expensive. I'm not denying, both are true. Both can be true. We can still be in shock that we're paying $4 for butter and also recognize that inflation is coming down, because it literally is. Literally is. And then in the US, the feds have not continued to increase the interest rate. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Are we there yet? No. Has inflation had a horrific impact on profitability? I mean, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But to continue to say inflation keeps rising, no, it's literally not. It's like literally not. Okay. So those are just a few of the things that I have seen that some were driven by just lack of perspective and lack of context. And this idea that if we see one reel or one TikTok, then that is the universal truth. It is not. It is not. Macro trends, those large global trends, those big macro trends, they happen over time. They happen over time. Then, of course, yes, there are micro trends that are happening in a moment that may or may not become those larger macro trends. But one TikTok with a few comments on it or a viral reel with 100 comments on it doesn't make it the reality of the industry, of everybody. It's literally not everybody. It's what you see in the algorithm that's fed to you. Some of the greatest value that I bring to our clients and community is my perspective, because I'm not in it. I'm watching it from multiple perspectives with experience in how to navigate what's actually real and what is a moment in time, right? One little thing versus a larger shift or trend. I do think some of us overcorrected, and we are beginning to see the results of that overcorrection. Like I said, overcorrecting by increasing pricing too high, overcorrecting by creating walls instead of healthy boundaries with our business agreements and communications, being difficult to do business with. But again, not everybody is on the struggle bus. And different struggles happen for different reasons, for different salons and hairdressers at different times. It's not a monolith. I don't think I've ever used that word. I don't know where it came from. Now I have to look it up, because my mom said every time I didn't know what something meant, we had to pull out the dictionary. Yes, I'm aging myself. We had dictionary. Okay, monolith. I don't even know if I used that word right. Hold on. Massive, undifferentiated, or often whole. Yeah, monolith, like a monolith. You know what? I don't fucking know. Okay, anyways, it's not everybody. One TikTok is not everybody. A handful of comments on a controversial post is not everybody. There are different business models. There are different things that people value. There are different market positions for each salon brand. There's luxury, there's moderate, there's value, there's discount. Some people see a shit ton of value in employment-based salons. They see value in leadership. They see value in consistency. They see value in not having to do the bullshit operations and marketing work. Some people didn't see value in that, went and tried it on their own, realized, oh shit, I do not want to do this, and went back. Some people found business ownership life to be a dream, and they are living their best business owner life. Some people are just happy, loving their clientele, making a great living. Some people have a vision and a dream and a plan to get there. There are so many different things happening in the salon industry. It's not a singular thing. Not a singular thing. The year of perspective. I just want you to remember that. Now, how do we retain perspective? Because I know we're not going to get off the socials. Of course not. There's so many great things about social media. So many great things, right? We build community, we build relationships, we solve problems, we add value, we are entertained, we get to laugh, we get to share ideas. So many great things. How do we filter? How do we filter through? How do we retain perspective? How do we not overcorrect or overreact to a singular piece of content? Clarity of your brand. It's always going to come back to brand, because when we have that clarity and how it's all connected, we can filter. It's literally your filter. It's like, oh, that fits. Oh, that doesn't fit. Oh, that may fit. I'm going to think about that more. I'm going to learn more about that. Yeah, that doesn't sound like it fits my brand. Oh, that sounds like it really fits my brand. I like that idea. I'm going to look more into that idea. So though it is literally eliminates so much distraction, so much chaos, so much confusion. So that is a big part of it, having clarity around your brand. That's why I created the Creating Your Awesome Brand course for our industry. It just didn't exist. It just doesn't. Fundamental brand education does not exist in our industry. And that's why I built that course for our industry. It will solve so many of your problems. Not because I created it. It has nothing to do with me. It's just my decades of understanding brand development, brand strategy, and brand story, and how it connects to literally everything. And working with all of you indirectly for 3.5 decades, directly for 13 years, every day. It is such a big missing piece. So that's one thing, having clarity around your brand. Social breaks. In 2016, we started the Unplugged as Fuck Challenge. I started seeing a lot of not awesome things happening from people being online too much. Well, it's 2024, and I'm still talking about it. We are losing perspective. The algorithm is feeding us differently. I need you to really hear this. And in the U.S., we are entering an election season. Doesn't matter what you believe, who you vote for. It's going to get messy. And so it's so important for us to log off consistently, meaning my recommendation is 24 hours minimum a row each week. That 24 hours, you won't even believe the difference. It doesn't sound like a lot, but then when we do it, we're like, oh shit, like, yeah, my brain needs a rest. And then we're like, yeah, this isn't reality, actually. My For You page is not reality. It is what TikTok says is my reality, but it is not my reality. It is not what is real. Perspective. And of course, having a mentor, community, people that help you stay grounded, that's a huge part of it. A big reason why A School still exists today, 10 years later. To have a safe, sacred space, a soft place to land that helps keep us grounded and clear and retain perspective or regain perspective when we lose it, because it's so easily lost. these days. So those are some things I want you to think about. Perspective. Perspective. And whenever you hear everybody says this, or the industry is this, or everybody does this, I want you to remember that that is not the case. That is literally not true. It's not everybody. Perspective. Thank you so much for listening. I am so incredibly grateful for you. Thank you for giving me the loving nudge I needed to get back recording these podcasts. It is truly an honor. It is. It's an honor to be here and to walk by your side every day. It truly is one of my greatest joys. Here's to the most peaceful 2024 we can have. And I'm sending you a ton of love. Thank you so much for listening. You can find us on the socials at Passion Squared and on the internet, passionsquared.net. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. Bye.